PDGA Rule Changes 2024. Earlier this week, they released a full list of changes they have applied that went into full effect on January 1st this year. And as you can see, it's a quite lengthy list that I think most of us don't really want to read through. But I thought I'd do you the favor of actually going over the important changes here. A lot of these are minor or just wording changes to make the rules more clear. But there are some quite significant changes that I think will especially affect all of us playing normal C tiers and will potentially cause some issues in the beginning of the season. I will leave a link to the full list below if you want to read it through, but these were just like the top 3 picks that I had that I think is important to know going into the new season. The first one being moving obstacles. And this is actually a rule that I think I might have broken before, because previously you've only been allowed to move casual obstacles such as loose branches or debris if they are on the playing surface where a supporting point will be when taking a stance. So this basically means around where your lie is. But I've honestly moved obstacles that have been in the way for my run up too, thinking that that was okay. And apparently it wasn't. But with the new rule change, they've actually said that instead of a supporting point, they've made it a bit more generic, saying that anything that's farther from the target than the front edge of the lie is okay to move. And that's kind of, to be honest, how I've moved stuff in the past. So in short, now you're actually allowed to clear the entire run up from debris as long as it's counted as a casual obstacle. And personally, I think that's a very good rule change. The second rule change that I think is actually quite big is in regards to the scoring. Previously, it's always been listed that the first player on the list has been responsible for picking up the group scorecard. And then you've usually had a verifier too, but I'm not sure if that was actually in the rulebook. Because I've played C tiers where you either have 2 scorekeepers that automatically verifies each other's scorecards, or just one person scoring and one person verifying. However, the new rule change actually states that each player must keep an independent scorecard, recording scores after each hole for the entire group. A player who refuses to keep score may be subject to disqualification. This basically means that all 4 on your card, or however many you are, must be recording scores. And I think this might cause some issues in the beginning for multiple reasons. For instance, in Sweden, we use at least 3 different scoring apps depending on who is hosting the tournament. And I think most of these are actually not built to have 4 scorers on the same card. So this is something they're gonna have to update very quickly to keep up with the new PDGA rules. I also think there's gonna be some grumpy people who will refuse to adapt to these rules, saying, oh, it's just a small C tier, I don't care about the rule. Because I think a lot of times people say, oh, I don't have my phone, I don't have the app, or any type of excuse to not have to keep score. I've always liked scoring the first round, so I don't have to score the second round, but I guess that's over now, as we all have to keep a scorecard, at least during real C tiers. And they also added a section in regards to the tournament director that you have to provide a scorecard to each player in the group, and they can be digital or physical. So this basically means that as long as these apps that I was talking about do not update their systems, they cannot be used at PDGA sanctioned tournaments until everyone on the card has access to their own scorecard to fill out the scores. The last big one I wanted to bring up that I thought was actually quite surprising is that C tier events does no longer have the option to mix divisions for groupings during the first round. At least here in Sweden, pretty much all the C tiers I've played have always had mixed divisions during the first round, unless it's a big C tier with like full 72 player pools for each division. In that case, you've only played within your division, but the smaller ones that have maybe 72 players in total have always had mixed divisions. That will no longer be allowed, and you have to play with your own division. However, keep in mind they actually note here that this change only applies to USA and Canada, so for us Europeans, we can still play with the mixed divisions for the first round. But in the US, they're gonna have to change that, and honestly, I think that's gonna be a bit problematic for smaller C tiers, where you might only have 2 or 3 people in some of the divisions, as that will mean that some cards will have too few players. Anyways, those were my picks for the biggest changes that applies to us players playing C tiers. But if you found something else interesting in the rule changes, let me know in the comments below. And if you're interested in getting some cool merch for the new disc golf season, consider checking out my website in the description below. Thank you very much for watching. See you in the next clip.